At the direction of the President of the United States, fighter aircraft assigned to U.S. Northern Command successfully took down a high-altitude airborne object off the northern coast of Alaska.
A U.S. F-22 fighter jet on Friday shot down an unidentified object, about the size of a small car, flying over Alaska. The Pentagon's chief spokesperson, U.S. Brigadier General Patrick Ryder, said.
The aircraft that took down the object was an F-22. Flying out of Joint Base Elmendorf in Alaska. It employed an AIM-9X to take down the object.
This comes less than a week after the military brought down a Chinese balloon that had flown across the United States.
The object was flying at an altitude of 40,000 feet and posed a reasonable threat to the safety of civilian flight.
President Joe Biden's order to shoot down the latest object was a rare presidential level of involvement, given initial accounts suggesting the object did not pose a military threat and was fairly rudimentary. But Republicans, and even some of Biden's fellow Democrats, had criticized Biden for waiting before he acted against the first balloon. White House spokesperson John Kirby on Friday declined to give a detailed description of the latest object to be shot down.
We're calling this an object because that's the best description we have right now. We do not know who owns it. Whether it's state-owned or corporate-owned or privately owned, we just don't know. It was much smaller than the spy balloon that we took down last Saturday. The way it was described to me was roughly the size of a small car.
Kirby said the discovery of the new object and its track first came to U.S. attention on Thursday night. The Pentagon said, unlike the Chinese balloon, this object did not appear to be maneuverable and was at the mercy of the wind. Now, the recovery process begins.
We do expect to be able to recover the debris since it fell not only within our territorial space, but on what we believe is frozen water. So a recovery effort will be made, and we're hopeful that it'll be successful, and then we can learn a little bit more about it.
Media outlets gathered outside former Vice President Mike Pence's home in Indianapolis after the FBI searched it for classified documents. The FBI said on Friday it recovered one additional government page with classified markings. The search, which Pence consented to, also resulted in 6 additional pages found, without such markings that were not discovered in the initial review by the Vice President's counsel. A Justice Department official confirmed the search happened earlier in the day. Pence and his wife were not home during the search, but a member of his legal team was present, and the Justice Department was given full access to the home. It came after Pence's attorney, Greg Jacobs, notified the National Archives in a January letter about the discovery of classified documents in Pence's home. The search also comes as former President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden face investigations by 2 special counsels over the retention of classified records.
A woman pulled from the rubble of a collapsed building in Turkey's Diyarbakir after being trapped for 122 hours following the region's deadly earthquake. It's a brief moment of relief in a tragedy that's killed more than 25,000 people. Although some are still being pulled from the debris on Saturday, few rescue efforts now result in success. Hopes are fading in both Turkey and Syria that many more survivors will be found. Sites like this one in Gaziantep house dozens of empty graves ready for mass burials. It's now been some 5 days since Monday's devastating 7.8 magnitude quake, Turkey's worst since 1939. In Kahramanmaraş, close to the quake's epicenter, there were fewer visible rescue operations amid the concrete mounds of fallen buildings. UN Aid Chief Mark Griffiths visiting the area on Saturday.
What happened here on Monday, the epicenter of the earthquake, was the worst event in 100 years in this region. We have a clear plan tomorrow or the next day to give an appeal for a 3-month operation to help the people of Turkey with humanitarian assistance. And we will do a similar one for the people of Syria.
Across the devastated region, people were still awaiting news of missing loved ones. In Syria, relief efforts are complicated by the more than decade-old civil war. Very little aid has entered, even after the Damascus government said on Friday it would allow convoys to cross front lines. In normal times, the UN delivers aid to the region across the border with Turkey via a single checkpoint, a policy that Damascus criticises as violating its sovereignty. The quake has raised questions over Turkey's earthquake planning and response time. President Tayyip Erdogan said on Friday that authorities should have reacted faster. On Saturday, he said his government is looking at how to rebuild destroyed areas.
We will quickly begin debris removal and reconstruction activities. We are making plans to reconstruct hundreds of thousands of houses with their infrastructure and superstructure, or more precisely, to rebuild our cities that suffered great destruction in the earthquake. In a few weeks, we will begin to take concrete steps.
Birkaç haftaya kadar da somut adımları atmaya başlayacağız.
The disaster hit as Erdogan prepares for national elections scheduled to be held by June, and at a time when his popularity was already eroding amid the soaring cost of living and a slumping Turkish currency. Simmering anger over the delays in aid delivery and rescue efforts is likely to play into the election.
Across France, hundreds of thousands of people demonstrate on Saturday, seeking to keep up pressure on the government over its pension reform plans, which include a move to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64. In a joint statement ahead of Saturday's marches, all the main unions called for the government to withdraw the bill. Nurse Delphine Maisonneuve was among the protesters.
I think this is the comeuppance for the government's indifference, meaning if they're not able to listen to what's happening on the streets and are not able to realise what is happening with the people, well, they shouldn't be surprised that it blows up at some point.
The French spend the largest number of years in retirement among OECD countries, a benefit which, opinion polls show, a substantial majority of people are reluctant to give up. Early estimates show that protest numbers have increased in Paris by about 20% from the last march on Tuesday. This is according to French newspaper Le Figaro. Unions were hoping for a huge turnout and to draw people from all ages and backgrounds to show the government that the anger against the reform runs deep. But President Emmanuel Macron says the changes are vital to ensuring the viability of the pension system. According to Labour Ministry estimates, raising the retirement age by 2 years and extending the pay-in period would yield an additional €17.7 billion or $19.18 billion in annual pension contributions. This would allow the system to break even by 2027. But unions say there are other ways to do this, such as taxing the super rich or asking employers or well-off pensioners to contribute more. They warned that they would seek to bring France to a standstill from March 7th if their demands were not met. A strike is already scheduled for February 16th.